So good evening everyone. Tonight is our first formal discussion in your subject Understanding the Self. So our first topic is the self from various philosophical perspective. The succeeding days that we're going to meet will be um, psychological perspective, sociological perspective, anthropological perspective, and many more. So before we start our formal discussion, I would like you to think about these questions. So I want you to reflect on these questions that I'm going to say right now. So, do you truly know yourself? Kilala mo ba ang sarili mo talaga? So paano mo ba masasabing kilala mo ang sarili mo? How would you characterize yourself? Paano mo ilalarawan ang sarili mo? What makes you stand out from the rest? What makes you special? How has yourself transformed itself from the past to this present? How is yourself connected to your body? How is yourself related to other selves? And what will happen to yourself after you die? So these questions, I want you to reflect on it because these questions generally will help you answer, do you, do you truly know yourself? Kilala mo ba ang sarili mo? So today's discussion, we're going to tackle the self from various philosophical perspective. Ano ba ang pananaw ng philosophy sa concept ng the self? So this discussion is from Professor Ronuel del Rosario. So what is philosophy? Philosophy is the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially in an academic discipline. A particular theory that someone has about how to live or how to deal with a particular situation. So, in the field of philosophy, they often um, question the existence of life, morality, what is good life, does God exist, and what is in the mind. So, those are the questions na madalas na tinatanong sa philosophy. It investigates the legitimacy of concept by rational argument concerning their implications, relationship, as well as reality, knowledge, moral judgment, and many more. So in philosophy, they offer, or we can see those arguments, diba? Just like in our ethics before, we have seen arguments about what is morally right and wrong, um, ethical dilemmas, moral dilemmas, and many more. So in studying philosophy, you can have a skill of critical thinking kasi you're balancing what is right and wrong. Your communication is being tested also. Analysis, argument skill, reasoning, and problem solving. Much of the philosophy concerns with the fundamental nature of the self. So tonight, we're going to see the views of different philosophers on the concept of the self. Ano ba ang um, pananaw ng mga philosophers sa the self? So, the period will be divided into ancient and modern philosophy. The Greeks were the ones who seriously questioned myths and moved away from them to understand reality and respond to perennial questions of curiosity, including the question of the self. So the philosophers here that we're going um, to tackle questioned or answered the question about the self. Yan. So the first period is the PRE-SOCRATICS. The PreSocratics includes the philosophers Thales, Pythagoras, Parmenides, Heraclitus, Empedocles, and many more. They were concerned with answering questions such as, what is the world really made up of? Why is the world the way it is? And what explains the changes that happens around us? So these are the questions they the answer to during the pre-Socratics. So in the pre-Socratics period, we can define arche or arche as the origin or source or the soul. So we're going to um, see repetitively the word soul in this discussion. During that period, the soul's movement is the ultimate arche of all other movements. So they believe in the pre-Socratics period that the soul is the source of all movement. Siya ang may pakana or siya ang may source. Yan. The arch has no origin outside itself and cannot be destroyed. So, in the pre-Socratic period, the arche or the arch is the soul and cannot be destroyed outside itself. So, let's have some reflective questions here. Do you agree that there is a difference between the body and the soul? Naniniwala ba kayo na ang body at ang soul ay magkaiba? Or ano kaya ang pagkakaiba ng body and soul? Do you think you have both? So, meron ba kayong soul? Kasi we can say that you have the body. But, do you have the soul? And, do you know the difference between the two? So, we're going to tackle those we're going to answer those questions during our discussion. So according to philosopher Socrates, he is concerned with the problem of the self. He said that the true task of the philosopher is to know oneself. So ang totoong task daw ng philosopher ay alamin ang kanyang sarili. The unexamined life is not worth living kapag hindi mo nakilala ang sarili mo or ang buhay mo, hindi hindi worth it ang buhay mo. Ganun. If you don't know yourself, your living is not worthy. Underwent a trial for corrupting the minds of the youth. Succeeded, made people think about who they are. So according to Socrates, the worst thing that can happen to anyone is to live but die inside. So there are a lot of people on Facebook that are saying that they are living but they are dying inside, diba? So that is the worst thing daw that can happen to anyone. So do you feel that you are living but you are dying inside? So that is the worst thing that can happen to you. He also believed that every person is dualistic. So we're going to see what is dualistic. So according to Socrates, the idea of dualistic is the body and soul. So the combination of a body and a soul is a man. So a man is the individual. So he described the body as the imperfect, and the perfect one is the soul. So also the body is the not permanent one kasi we die, right? The body dies, but the soul doesn't die, or it is perfect. So again, Socrates believed that man is dualistic. Dualistic means body and soul is equal to man or men. So in the concept of, or in the interpretation of Socrates, you need to have a soul searching. Kasi kapag you don't have the soul, you are living but you are dying inside. So pag wala yung isa, you are not complete as a man or a man. So you need to do the soul searching. So the next philosopher is Plato. Plato is a student of Socrates. So si Plato naman ay naniniwala that there are three components of the soul or to the soul. May tatlong parts or components ang isang soul. So the interpretation of the self of Plato and Socrates is almost the same. But Plato added that there are three parts of the soul. So these are the rational soul, spirited soul, and the appetitive soul. So the rational soul is the reasons and intellect to govern affair. So the rational soul is the thinking soul. So there is the intellect. The spirited soul is the emotions should be kept at bay. So ito naman yung emotions natin. Then the appetitive soul is base desires, food, drink, sleep, sexual needs, and etc. So the appetitive soul is our basic needs. So again, Plato believed that there are three parts of the soul: the rational soul, spirited soul, and the appetitive soul. When these are attained, the human person's soul becomes just and virtuous. Yung just and virtuous is yung hindi ka succeeding, you're okay. Like virtuous, you always do what is good, what is right. Like that. Hindi ka nag-excess sa vices na negative or vices na isa pa. Di ba dalawa ang vices? A question related to Plato. What happens to a person whose three components of the soul are imbalanced? Ano ang mangyayari sa person kapag hindi balance ang tatlong components ng soul, di ba dito? Kapag ito hindi balance sa isang tao, ano kaya ang mangyayari, di ba? So do you have any idea? So if a person is yung spirited soul niya ay mas dominant kesa sa rational soul and the appetitive soul, sila yung mga emotional na tao. They are emotional. Yung mas pinapairal nila yung emotions nila in situations, in making decisions. While in the rational soul, ito naman yung mga sobrang stiff, yung mga boss ganun minsan. Joke. Joke lang. Yung intellect, what is, yung thinking soul. Then the appetitive soul is yung mga mabisyo, ganun, or yung, di ba, if you are dominated by appetitive soul, if it is in food, you become obese, overweight. If you If your desire is drinking, you become drunkard, ganun. Kapag sleep naman, tamad ka, tardiness. Yun. So there's a negative impact to the person if these three components are not balanced, di ba? Nagkakaroon ng hindi magandang epekto sa tao. The next one is the Saint Augustine. Ano naman kaya ang pananaw ni Saint Augustine sa the self? So Saint Augustine is known as the spirit of man in medieval philosophy, following views of Plato but adds Christianity. So naniniwala siya sa view ni Plato about the self, pero dinagdagan niya yon ng Christianity. Man is a bifurcated nature. Part of man dwells in the world, the imperfect, which is the body, and yearns to be with the divine. So, makikita natin kung anong ibig sabihin niya mamaya. Other parts is capable of reaching immortality. So, ang sinasabi niyang other part that is capable of reaching immortality is the soul. Because sabi niya, the body dies on earth. Diba? Totoo naman, diba? And Saint Augustine believed that the soul lives eternally in spiritual bliss with God. So, naniniwala si Saint Augustine that a man is a combination of the body and the soul. But he added that when the body dies on earth, the soul lives eternally in spiritual bliss with God. That's why it is said there that he added Christianity. So a question related to the view of Saint Augustine about the self. Do you believe in the concept of the soul coming to heaven after death? Naniniwala ba kayo na ang soul ay pumupunta sa langit kapag ang katawan ay namatay na? So, sino ang mga Katoliko dyan or ang mga hindi Katoliko? So, do you believe? What makes us people different from animals? Next one, according to St. Thomas Aquinas, man is a combination of matter and form. Matter, or the hyle, is the common stuff that makes up everything in the universe. Form, or the forme, is the essence of a substance or thing, what makes it what it is. The body of the human is similar to animals or object, but what makes a human is his essence. The soul is what makes us human. So the essence here, the form, the essence, and the soul makes us human. So magkaka-connect lang sila. Let's proceed now to the period of modern philosophy. Ano naman ang interpretation ng modern philosophy sa the self? So let us have a review. In PRE-SOCRATICS period, they believed, or most of them believe, that the man is a combination of body and the soul. Diba? Yes. Pero ano naman kaya ang view ng modern philosophy sa the self? According to Rene Descartes, or Descartes, I believe this is Descartes, he is the father of modern philosophy. Human person is a combination of body and mind naman. Naniniwala si Rene Descartes that human person is a combination of body and mind. There is so much that we should doubt. If something is so clear and lucid as not to be doubted, that's the only time one should believe. The only thing one can't doubt is the existence of the self. So, naniniwala si Rene Descartes na kapag nag-iisip ka, proof yon na you are the self or tao ka. When you think, that is proof that there is self. Yan. Diyan naniniwala si Rene Descartes. Sabi pa niya, I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum sa Greek. I think, therefore I am. So naniniwala siya that the self is the cogito, the things that thinks. Tayo yun. Or we have the thinking ability kasi, di ba? And the extensia is the extension of mind or body. The body is a machine attached to the mind. It's the mind that makes the man. So, as I repeat, when you think, that is the proof that there is a self. So, kapag nag-iisip ba tayo? Yan, proof yan na we are a man. I am a thinking thing. A thing that doubts, understands, affirms, denies, wills, refuses, imagines, and perceives. Do you agree with the statement about the self kanina sa PRE-SOCRATICS? What seems to be questionable in their conjectures? Also, we're going to talk about that later. Next one, on modern philosophy, David Hume. He disagrees with all of the other aforementioned philosophers. One can only know what comes from the senses and experiences. The self is not an identity beyond the physical body. You know that other person or other people are humans not because you have seen their souls, but because you see them, you hear them, and you feel them. So naniniwala si David Hume that self, yung concept ng mga self ng ibang philosopher is imagination. Walang ganon. Kapag nakakita ka na ng body, and that body comes with sense, yeah, we have senses, and we have different experiences. That is the self for David Hume. Sabi pa niya, the self is nothing but a bundle of impressions and ideas. Yes, totoo yan. Kasi from our birth to right now, ang dami naman na natin kasing naging experiences, right? Sabi pa niya, self is a collection of different perceptions which rapidly succeed each other. Self is a perpetual flux and movement. We want to believe that there is a unified, coherent self, soul, mind, etc. But actually, it is all just a combination of experiences. So, naniniwala si David Hume that a man or the self is the body and the experiences. Yes, are you with me? Next one. Immanuel Kant. Ano naman ang pananaw ni Immanuel Kant sa the self? He agrees with Hume that everything starts with perception, sensation, of impression. There is a mind that regulates these impressions. Time, space, etc. are ideas that one cannot find in the world, but is built in our mind. The self organizes different impressions that one gets in relation to his own existence. We need active intelligence to synthesize all knowledge and experiences. The self is not only personality but also the seat of knowledge. So dinagdagan ni Immanuel Kant ang sinabi ni David Hume na experiences ng intelligence. Yes. How do you feel about the discussion so far? Diba? Magkaiba ang naging pananaw ng the self ng dalawang periods na binanggit natin. Iba ang naging interpretation ng the self ng mga nasa PRE-SOCRATICS. Iba din ang naging pananaw nila sa nasa modern philosophy. According to Gilber Ryle, denies the internal, non-physical self. So hindi siya naniniwala sa soul. What truly matters is the behavior that the person manifests in his day-to-day life. Looking for the self is like entering LU and looking for the universe. The self is not an identity one can locate and analyze, but simply the convenient name that we use to refer to the behaviors that we make. So yung mga ginagawa natin that makes us the self. Sabi dito, um, or sabi, Ryle believe that I act, therefore I am. Yung mga ginagawa mo reflects your the self. According to MERLEAU-PONTY, a phenomenologist who says that the mind-body bifurcation is an invalid problem. Walang saysay, walang sense. Wala daw sense yung mind-body combination. Ay, walang problem. Mind and body are inseparable. One's body is his opening towards his existence to the world. The living body, his thoughts, emotions, and experiences are all one. So, hindi nasa-separate, hindi mo maisa-separate ang body and mind, according to MERLEAU-PONTY. If you hate this subject, MERLEAU-PONTY understands you. So, dito sa MERLEAU-PONTY, he believed that if the body dies, your mind doesn't work na din. So, if it is inseparable, so that makes you the self, according to MERLEAU-PONTY. So, I just need to add some that's out of our presentation. So, yan. I'm going to add that Aristotle John Locke believed that the self is consciousness. So John Locke, I have encountered John Locke in our previous subject, child and adolescence development before. The self is consciousness. Naniniwala naman si John Locke that the self is consciousness. That the human mind at birth is tabula rasa, or a blank slate. That the self is a combination from senses and experiences when a baby grows up. So, naniniwala naman si John Locke that the self is from blank. Diba? Naniniwala kasi siya that when a baby is born, his or her mind is a blank slate, tabula rasa. And later on, nadadagdagan na lang ng ideas and character sa paglipas ng panahon. Ganun naman. The things that surrounds us affects us. Diba? Yan. So this presentation is actually encoded to your Edmodo na. So let's go to your Edmodo. So for questions, you may